Thank you guys so very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being part of Attraction Realm. I really want to sincerely apologize for not having to upload lately. And I think it's because of the fact that I had other channels that I was uploading on YouTube, and I also had to do a lot of research and editing on those channels. So by the time I started Attraction Realm, I was also doing the same editing, but I realized that I was becoming kind of like stressed out and fatigued, having to edit 3 channels daily. That looked like I was a bit cumbersome for me, so I needed to re-strategize. So that's why I hadn't uploaded lately. So, but thank you for always being there, and thank you for your understanding, and thank you for coming on board. I really want to appreciate that. And for my little subscribers, thank you guys so very much. All right, let's go into it. It was in 2013 when I actually sat down and trying to basically do a whole of evaluation. All my life, I guess at that time I was a little bit stressed out, fatigued, and depressed. I think somewhat kind of depressed. And by the time I started to evaluate my life as an individual, this was what I discovered, and I'm going to put that on the board. That's why the board is here, to give you an overview, kind of like an idea of how it all started and why I actually ditched Christianity to join a cult. I'm sure you guys would want to hear that story, but I'm going to be using the board as my canvas to express my thoughts as they begin to come. So it was in 2013, let's put it this way, 2013, I was stagnant. That's the word, stagnant. Stagnant. And then I did a bit of evaluation, like something I would normally do, but this time around I was going to do that evaluation and come up with whatever was the challenge I had. And then after a few days or weeks or thereabout, we came up with this conclusion. Came up with this conclusion, and the conclusion is this: I had an initial. Don't forget that I'm giving you reasons why I ditched Christianity to embrace the cult. And of course, that's what most people would call it in the Christendom or in the Christian community. So have it at the back of your mind that I'm going somewhere. Okay, so from me coming up to this idea of me being stagnant, I needed to evaluate myself. I came up with this conclusion, and the conclusion was that I had an initial mindset program. And that programming was more like a daily routine for me. Of course, I was raised that way. Let me put it out that way. I was raised that way, and basically waking up in the morning, like I would actually see my father wake up in the morning, have to do things, go to work. And then from work we go to church, and then from church we're back home, and then the cycle goes on like that, right? So by the time I did this conclusion, I knew I was in an initial mindset program and I needed to work on. This lifestyle was what I became tired of. For me, it was looking like I was on autopilot, right? Stagnation mode, and I needed to come out of this. For the work, it was few friends that we came together and started a business. But at some point, because I was getting fagged out and stressed out, I had to relinquish my position in that business. Of course, it was hard, but I just needed my sanity at that point. Now I'm going to put more emphasis on church, because if you look at the thumbnail, the title was why I ditched Christianity. So I'll put here religious activity, right? religious activity. Now, bear in mind that one of the things I've discovered on over 30 years of my life in the Christian organization or Christian faith is the fact that religious activities does not in any way equate success. In any way, it doesn't equate success. It doesn't equate spirituality, and it doesn't equate working for God. In any way, it doesn't at all equate working for God. You see, most times when you're here in this religious cycle or religious dogma or creed or idea, you think that literally because you're here, you should become successful or become spiritual, or that you're having to work for God. But I'm here to tell you that you're not working for God. What you actually, you're just being brainwashed to think that you're working for God. And what usually happens is that you realize later in life, after you've been used and dumped here, you realize that you thought you were actually working for God, only to discover that you ain't working for God. You're actually working for some set of businessmen, actually, men that have come together in camouflage of God or religious activity to put you in that mode to think that you're working for God. So by the time I came up with this whole idea about my life in autopilot, stagnation mode, these activities and their religious stuffs, I needed to let it go. And I wasn't mincing words. I wasn't joking about it. I wanted it out and I wanted it gone, but gone for life. And one of the reasons for that is because of the fact that I was informed. And at 25, I started reading books from Robert, Kiyosaki. I hope I'm spelling it correctly, and C. Maxwell, Anthony Robbins. I love him so much. Jim Rohn, and a host of other authors that I can't remember. But particularly with Jim Rohn said something on one of those lectures or seminars that he used to organize. He said, "A life which is unexamined, is not worth living." You see, most of the time when I pick up or I read this, it became a mantra for success for me. Anytime I sat down and I read these words, it strikes me so hard that I want to make a drastic change in my life. Once I listen to the word, I'm thinking of having to change, and I needed to examine myself. And that was what I did. I needed to examine, and he went further and said that for things to change, you have to change. That hits really hard for me. Otherwise, nothing much will change. I guess this was the backbone breaker for me. For things to change, you have to change, otherwise nothing much will change. And that was one of the stuffs that Jim Rohn talked about that hung on to me and also helped me to determine what it was I was going to do. For me to get rid of all this present state that I needed to totally change. I realized I was under an initial mindset program up until 30 years of my life, and what it was having to wake up daily just like my parents, go to work, take your bath and those normal things that you would do at home before you go to work, and then from work and then to church, and then the cycle went on like that. But I realized that the little part of my parents' life, I didn't see success as I expected. I didn't see success, and not only my parents, but a few others that I was looking up to. When I was growing in church, I expected that if they were working for God, ultimately they should be, successful. But I didn't see that. From Jim Rohn and his words and his seminars, Robert Kiyosaki, C. Maxwell, Anthony Robbins. There's something Anthony Robbins said that was really profound for me. He said that a capricious man believes in chance, or a destined man, or a consistent man rather, believes in destiny. A capricious man believes in chance, and most of the time in this religious cycle, that's what they are meant to make you believe, that you have to do a whole lot of things to be successful. You know, all those religious activities, go to church, pay your tithe, pay your offering, do your fasting, you know, all those religious activities, and then that guarantees you success, spirituality, or maybe it makes you feel like you're working for God. And then there's space for you somewhere in the sky, which they call heaven. I'd always thought that, but having to read these books, I'm going to change my mindset and perspectives about life. For me, I was stagnant. I needed to let it go. So one of the things I did as a result of these teachings from these mentors that I picked up over time was, one, I'll put it this way, I had to change. Let me change this pen. Sorry for that. So one, I had to not change, not word now. I had to change. I had to develop myself personally. Transitioning from this point that I had this initial mindset, you know, leaving all this programming, all this behind, into another one required a gradual process. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a day's job. It requires that that I do gradually. More like moving away from what I'd always known into something totally different. So what I was doing then was total personal development. I actually started to develop myself personally. Let's call that personal development, and or more like reprogramming my mind. More like reprogramming my mind. So what I was doing then was reading books. The first one I picked up was Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. I also picked a book written by Charles Duhigg. I hope I'm spelling that correctly. That's Habit. I picked up a book written by Byrne. How many of you remember that book, Eat the Frog by Brian Tracy? And also 48 Laws of Power. So 48 Laws of Power, written by Robert Greene. I think another one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, I think so. What happened after some point at my personal development journey was that I started to become a free thinker. Let me put it that way, free thinker. As a matter of fact, I did a whole lot of things. Changed my personality, changed my looks. I wasn't like this, you know. That's when 2015 it started to. I just woke up one morning and someone put my mind to where that I was having bald head just at the center, middle of my head, and I was wondering, bald head by this age? So I started to Read books. I think I also read books on men's health. I can't remember the author. I remember that. I just pick books on men's health. I started to work on my body. All the things that came to my mind when I was reminiscing, because I picked up free thinking ability. Don't forget that. And I decided to start to wear locks. And I've been wearing these locks since 2014 or thereabout. Yeah, I started the journey. Don't forget 2013, and then by 2014, I just wanted to change everything about me. So I started to wear my locks. I've been wearing these locks for almost 10 years now. So I became a free thinker. At the same time, I think I started to have an open mind. That's the word. Started to have a towards life generally. I just grew open mind towards everything. Towards people, towards books, towards life generally. If you're here, if you're here in this religious activity, your mind tends to be kind of like locked up. It's locked up. You're always having these ideas of self-righteous. Let's put it that way, self-righteous. And there's this stuff about religious activity that you just get stuck up. Anything outside of it, in that circle can never be God. Your mind, you can't think freely at that level. You can't think. You have to think based on the doctrine, based on the rules and regulations that's been set up by that organization. And outside of this religious activity, and outside of this, their beliefs, anything outside their way of thinking was never God. It can never be God. It has been something outside God. So you see how much of your mind that's been locked up into a creed, dogma, an idea that limits you and sets you back, just take you way back. But here, by the time I started to read all these books, started to open my mind more towards life, started to become a free thinker. Then fast forward, let me clean this so that I'll give you an idea of what I really mean by between 2013, fast forward to 2016, still doing my transitioning. It's not easy. Like I said, it wasn't going to be easy at all. It wasn't an easy transition. You can imagine it took me a while to really reprogram my mind from all this, something that you've always done 30 years of your life, now having to, and that's one thing about reprogramming mind. It takes time, but with dedication and determination, you can do it. Trust me, you can do it. So I picked up free thinking ability, open mind. And then between 2013 and 2016, I was still doing my, just minding my business, reading books, reprogramming my mind. But I wouldn't forget that it was 2016 that I was in a bookstore again to pick up books, that I stumbled upon a particular book that totally changed my life. And that's where the core thing came about. As the core thing came about. I stumbled upon that book with a caption, creative visualization. Creative visualization. Now, there's something, I'll put more emphasis on these, because that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. That was the beginning of my enlightenment journey. And that was the beginning of me moving from being a Christian totally, to joining a cult. So listen very carefully. So I got to the bookstore and I was picking books, and then I stopped. I stopped and I stumbled upon this book. Now bear in mind that if I didn't have the ability to think freely, like I told you, or I never had an open mind, That means if I was still in this circle or belief, these religious beliefs and ideas, I probably wouldn't pick up that book that day. Because what happened was, by the time I saw that book, it was this caption, and at the same time, the book is, by the way, written by Shakti Gawain. Beautiful writer, Shakti Gawain. And then in front of the book was a man, just bear with me in this drawing, a man holding a stick and gazing into the sky or the winds, like gazing more like a trance, right? It looks so occultic. Now going back, if I were to still be in this idea and dogma, I probably wouldn't have picked that book that day. But having developed a free thinking ability and open mind as a result of the books that I started to read and reprogram my mind, I looked at the book, I opened it, I was feeling, it became more like I was between, it was like a wall between where I was coming from and where I was, so I opened the book and then I started to, just glance through it. And I was talking about mental energy. I was talking about affirmation and meditation. It looked strange to me. To me, it looked like it was a cult. At the same time, if anyone here picked that book or read that book or saw that book, will have it at the back of their mind that this has nothing to do with God. It must be an occultic book. Yeah. I picked it up and I was glancing through it. At the end of and the bookstore looked at me and said it like, I love this book. I said, okay, I would like it. How much is it? He said, no, that I can have it. I've always been a good customer, a good one, so that I can have the book. I was like, oh, I should. Okay. So I picked the book and then I went home with the book, knowing that book would be the beginning of my spiritual enlightenment or spiritual journey into freedom and bliss. Now I went home and I started to read the book on creative visualization, and it started to open my mind in another dimension, in another realm. That was the beginning of my spiritual journey. That was the beginning of my spiritual enlightenment. Not only that, I started to do a whole lot of practice, do more meditation like I've never done before. It was mind blowing. And then I started to affirmation. And then I also started to create my world. As a matter of fact, that was the first time in my life that I would ever think that I could create my world. Right up until that time, I've always thought that it was impossible for you to create your world. That at this church or religious activity or Christianity, you don't create your world. God creates it. More like you're looking for God to help you create your world outside you. And at the same time, the kind of prayers that we pray, we're always begging or always cajoling, always, feel so wanting here. It was a liberation for me from this point or from this angle. I started to create my world because Shakti said I could create my world, and she gave me reasons why I should create my world, that I have the ability to create my world, and at the same time, like, I'm limitless. That's the word, I'm limitless. It's amazing. So I started to do creative visualization, and then meditation and affirmations. And you know how we do the meditation and affirmation thing? I'll literally be on my bed, close my eyes and then start to affirm things. Everyone around me at that particular time, actually thought I had joined a cult. it was an amazing experience. I started becoming more peaceful. That's the word, peaceful, more peaceful, blissful. Started becoming poised. There was something like freedom. The air was, I don't know how to put it. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. It was out of this world. Like, can I really do this? Then I started to put things, put up things that I wanted. The first thing I can't remember that I wanted at that time, and I started to put up mental energy into it. In less than a month or thereabout, I started to see results. It was mind blowing. So that was how my spiritual enlightenment or my spiritual journey started. Now, by the time I finished reading that book, because it's not a big book or small pamphlet, and that you can read through, and then you have practicals in it. We're still going to talk about that here on Attractionrealm. So actually, what I think happened to me was more like, by the time I started to become more, having the ability to think freely, have an open mind, I was elevated, kind of like, right? Elevated into another realm where I could start to attract things to myself. Now, at this level of thought, or at this level of mindset, there was fear, shame, guilt. That means that anything outside this arena, anything outside this box, brought fear, shame, and guilt. But by the time I got into this arena, it brought peace, bliss, joy, love. I became more like God. That's the word. I should put it that way. I became more like God. Now, after I finished reading that book on creative visualization by Shakti Garan, she opened my mind. Not only opened my mind, but by the time I went to the back of the book, because I wanted to know more, I went to the back of the book, more like references. I was looking for references, actually, something to help me move to the next level of this enlightenment. That was when I stumbled upon teachers, beautiful teachers like Neville Gordon. We're gonna put more emphasis on Neville Gordon, on Attractionrealm. I met mentors like Neville Gordon, Joseph Murphy, Charles Filmer, L. Nightingale, Ernest Holmes, and a host of others, James Allen, and a host of others that I cannot probably remember now, and on and on and on. But Neville Goddard was really one that really hit me so hard. It hit me the most. You know why? Because Neville Goddard was using the Bible as reference. I've never heard someone use Bible as references to make to bring about lights into things. Neville Goddard was using the Bible, using it like from where I was coming from. I didn't understand that. It was giving me the inner meanings. The inner meanings of it was amazing. And it was later that I realized that those inner meanings, is what we call esoteric meanings, the deeper meanings of the Bible. I was overwhelmed. It got me hooked. Started to read books on Neville Goddard, you know, books on awakening the imagination, books on inner conversations that he wrote, and most of others of books that Neville Goddard wrote. So that was how I transitioned from stagnant life or stagnant mode, let's put it that way, into my riches and abundance, into wealth. When I say riches and wealth, I'm not emphasizing on things that you can literally see, or possessions, or whatever it is that you think that, you know. I'm not talking about possessions. I'm talking about the inner wealth, talking about the inner riches, the abundance that are within you, that I never one time thought that I had, you know. Here, it was always my thought was for me to get wealth, to get riches, for me to be in abundance. I had to do a lot of things, more like transactionary. Let me put it out that way, more like transactionary. I have to go to church, I had to pay my tithes, I had to pay my offering, you know, go through 7 days fasting, and all those limiting beliefs and ideas that I actually had to do first before you can get God to see you. But here, Never Goddard and Shaktigara and these powerful metaphysics teachers are telling me different things. Not only telling different, but at the same time using the Bible references different from, you know, what I've always known the Bible to be. That was how I moved from this initial mindset, stagnant mode, I'll put it that way, into my riches. That was how I moved from Christianity into what people call cults. It's amazing. So that's my journey. So I hope you guys understand. So what we're going to be doing on Attraction Realm, my enlightenment, is talk about my enlightenment journey. I want to share with you guys, you know, I want to share with the world. So let's like, share, subscribe, and let's get it going, ladies and gentlemen. Now the next topic I want us to delve into, you know, would be topics on creative visualization. Topics on creative visualization. Let me clean this so that we can have the topics are, you know, creative visualization, and then vibration. There's something about vibration I really want us to talk about too. The law of vibration. That's an amazing topic. The laws of attraction also. And on and on and on and on. Thank you guys for taking your time out to listen. Thank you guys for taking your time to become a part of this community. I really appreciate that. So that was how I ditched Christianity and then joined the New Thought movement, and I'm happy for it, honestly. I really thank goodness that I had to do that. So that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now. Love you guys.